Hello everyone. Thank you for
Ủa,
clicking on
Cái
my
gì?
channel.
Địch có tật.
Here, we dive into family conflicts and the challenges that come with them. If you've ever experienced something similar, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like the video to support the channel's growth. If there are any mistakes or areas for improvement, feel free to share your feedback in the comments. I truly appreciate you being here and listening. Now let me set the stage. Opening. I never wanted to be the villain in my own family, but that night, I had no choice. My daughter's baby shower was supposed to be a joyous celebration, a moment to cherish before she stepped into motherhood. But the second my sister-in-law walked in, I knew trouble was brewing. Her smug smile, the way she carried herself, it was as if she wanted to make the night about her. I tried to stay calm, to keep the peace. But then she crossed the line, and in front of everyone, I did something I never thought I would. I told her to get out. Now, I'm left wondering, was I wrong? Tensions beneath the surface. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when I actually tried with her, really tried. When my brother first introduced Laura to the family, I welcomed her with open arms. I wanted to be the good sister-in-law, the kind that makes things easy, the kind that brings people together. But Laura, she never made it easy. From day one, there was something about her. A quiet arrogance, a way of speaking that made me feel like I was constantly being tested. Maybe it was the way she'd correct me mid-sentence, or the way she'd smile, just a little too much, when pointing out my mistakes. At first, I convinced myself it was all in my head, but over time, it became impossible to ignore. She had a habit of inserting herself into everything, family vacations, holiday planning, even the smallest conversations. And it was never in a way that felt natural. It was always performative, as if she wanted to prove she belonged more than I did. My parents adored her, of course. She was polished, articulate, and knew exactly how to play the part of the perfect daughter-in-law. But when it was just the two of us, the mask would slip, little digs about my parenting, my career, my choices. She never said anything outright cruel, just enough to make me doubt myself, to make me feel small. Then came the real breaking point. A year ago, during Thanksgiving dinner, Laura made an offhand remark about my daughter Jenna. Something about how she was so young to be starting a family. How she hoped Jenna was truly ready for the responsibility. The words themselves were neutral enough, but her tone, that knowing smirk, it was meant to sting. And it did. I remember gripping my wine glass, so hard I thought it might shatter, but I let it slide. I told myself it wasn't worth a fight. I swallowed my pride for the sake of family unity, for my brother's sake. But the resentment grew. Every gathering after that felt like walking on glass, knowing at any moment she'd find a way to twist the knife. It was always subtle, always calculated. I started avoiding family events unless absolutely necessary. My brother, oblivious as ever, acted like everything was fine, like I was imagining things. I stopped bringing it up. What was the point? I knew how it would go, me overreacting, her playing innocent, everyone telling me to just let it go. So when Jenna's baby shower came around, I was determined to make it perfect. This was our moment, a rare chance for my daughter to be celebrated, for us to be surrounded by love without drama. And then Laura showed up, late as usual, her presence alone enough to set my nerves on edge. I had told myself I wouldn't let her get to me. But deep down, I knew better. I knew this wasn't just another family gathering. I knew, sooner or later, something was going to break. And it did. The baby shower that was supposed to be perfect. The morning of the baby shower, I woke up with a strange mix of excitement and unease. It was supposed to be a perfect day. One of those rare moments where family and friends gathered for something purely joyful. No drama. No passive-aggressive remarks, just love and celebration for my daughter Jenna, as she prepared to bring a new life into the world. I spent weeks planning every little detail. The decorations, the food, the seating arrangements. I made sure everything felt warm, inviting, safe. Jenna was glowing with happiness, and I wanted nothing to taint that. My closest friends arrived early to help, and soon, the house was filled with laughter and the soft hum of conversation. I was actually starting to believe that, for once, everything might go smoothly. And then, of course, she arrived. Laura swept into the party nearly an hour late, wearing a dress that looked more suited for a gala than a baby shower. She carried herself with that effortless confidence, the kind that had always irritated me, the kind that made her look like she owned whatever room she walked into. People turned to greet her, and I watched as she flashed her signature charming smile, instantly drawing attention. I took a deep breath. It's fine. She's just another guest. Don't let her get to you. But then, the little things started piling up. She made a dramatic show of apologizing for being late, loudly blaming traffic. Except we lived in the same neighborhood, and I knew damn well it wasn't traffic. She complimented the decorations, but immediately followed it with, "Oh, I was actually going to throw Jenna a shower myself." I had so many creative ideas, but I guess this is cute too. A few people chuckled, not realizing the subtle dig, but I felt my stomach tighten. Then she took over. Not officially, of course, but in the way she always did. She floated around, inserting herself into every conversation, making sure she was at the center of everything. I watched as she wrapped an arm around my daughter and whispered something in her ear, making Jenna laugh. For a moment, I wanted to believe it was something harmless. But then I saw the way Laura glanced at me. Just a flicker of triumph in her eyes. And the worst part? People loved her. They always did. My friends, my family. None of them seemed to notice the way she subtly undercut me. The way she made it seem like she and Jenna were closer than Jenna and I had ever been. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But as I stood there, watching her effortlessly weave herself into the heart of the event, I felt the familiar weight of resentment settle in my chest. This was my daughter's day, my family, my home. And yet, somehow, Laura had managed to make herself the main character again. I clenched my jaw, forcing a smile as I greeted guests, trying to shake the feeling that the day was slowly slipping out of my control. But deep down I knew this wasn't going to end well. The unwelcome disruption. I had been holding it together barely. Through gritted teeth and forced smiles, I told myself to let it go, to focus on Jenna and the joy of the day. But Laura had a way of needling her way under my skin, turning something special into something hers, and I could feel it happening again. The games had just started when she made her next move. We had planned something simple and sweet, guessing baby names, a fun little quiz about Jenna and her husband, light-hearted things meant to bring everyone together. I was about to start the next game when Laura clapped her hands together, flashing that effortless grin. "Oh, I have the best idea," she announced, cutting right through the room. People turned to look at her, and just like that, I was no longer in control. "I saw this at a shower recently, and it was so much fun," she continued. "Everyone shares their real first thoughts when they found out Jenna was pregnant. You know, the honest ones." I froze. My stomach dropped. It was like slow motion. How the room shifted. People exchanging hesitant glances, some chuckling awkwardly. My daughter let out a nervous laugh, clearly unsure of how to react. And then Laura, in her perfectly curated way, turned to me first. "Why don't you go first?" she asked sweetly, tilting her head like she was handing me a gift rather than a loaded gun. I felt the air shift, because I knew what she was doing, and I hated that it was working. The truth. When Jenna first told me she was pregnant, my reaction hadn't been perfect. I had worried about her age, her readiness, the struggles ahead. It wasn't that I wasn't happy, but I was scared for her, and I knew that if I said anything less than a glowing, scripted response, Laura would seize it, twist it, and make me the villain in my own daughter's story. I forced a smile, keeping my voice light. I was overjoyed, of course. Jenna's always been strong, and I knew she'd be an amazing mother. Laura let out a little laugh, shaking her head. "Oh, come on. That's not the real reaction, is it? I mean, we all had our moments of shock. I remember when I found out, I thought, wow, already? But hey, everything worked out." Her words hung in the air. It was subtle, casual, but the implication was clear. She had cast doubt on Jenna's readiness again, just like she had at Thanksgiving. Only this time, she had done it in front of everyone. I saw Jenna's smile falter for just a second. That was all it took. Heat rose to my face. My hands clenched at my sides. I wanted to scream, to call her out right then and there, to wipe that smug expression off her face. But I knew that if I snapped, I would be the one who looked bad. So I swallowed it down, forcing a laugh. Well, I guess we all have our thoughts, but what matters is that Jenna's going to be an incredible mom. People nodded, murmured agreement. The tension thinned just a little. But Laura? She just smiled. She had done what she came to do. And I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep my composure. The breaking point. I should have let it go. That's what I kept telling myself as I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, my fingers curling into my palms so tightly my nails nearly broke the skin. It was just another one of Laura's games. Another carefully placed jab meant to undermine me, to make me look small in front of my own family. But then I saw it, the flicker of doubt in Jenna's eyes, the way her shoulders tensed, just for a second, as if she had let Laura's words crawl under her skin. And that was it. That was the moment I knew I couldn't let it go this time. I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Laura let out a soft, dramatic sigh. "You know," she mused, swirling the wine in her glass like she was just making idle conversation. "I always say that honesty is the foundation of family. It's just so refreshing when people can be upfront, right? I mean, we all have opinions. We all have doubts. It's only human." And then she looked right at me. It was a challenge, a dare. I felt something inside me snap. "You're right, Laura," I said, my voice even controlled, but laced with something sharp. "Honesty is important. So let's be honest. You didn't come here today to celebrate Jenna. You came here to make this about you, like you always do." A hush fell over the room. Laura blinked, her perfectly rehearsed expression slipping for just a second before she let out a light laugh. "Oh, come on. That's a little harsh, don't you think?" I stepped forward, my pulse roaring in my ears. "No, I don't. Because I see what you're doing. I've seen it for years. You smile. You act so sweet. But every time, you find a way to twist things just enough to make people question me, to make me look like the bad guy. And I've had enough." My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. People were staring, some with wide eyes, some shifting uncomfortably, some watching with morbid curiosity, waiting to see what would happen next. Jenna stood frozen, torn between shock and discomfort. My brother, who had been laughing at something just a moment ago, suddenly looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. And Laura? She just tilted her head, that infuriating smirk still lingering. "Wow," she breathed. "I had no idea you felt that way." Like hell she didn't. I let out a breath, shaking my head. "You need to leave." Silence. For the first time since she walked in, Laura's expression faltered. "What? You heard me," I said, my voice firmer now. "This is Jenna's day, not yours. So get out." For the first time, she looked unsure. Not angry. Not defensive. Just surprised. A beat passed. And then, with a dramatic little laugh, she set her glass down on the table. "Well," she said smoothly, "if that's how you feel." She grabbed her purse, turned on her heel, and walked out, her head held high, her exit perfectly timed, like she had planned for this moment all along. The second the door clicked shut behind her, the weight in my chest shifted. Not quite relief, not quite guilt, just finality. I had done it. But now, as I turned back to the stunned faces around me, I couldn't help but wonder, had I really won? Or had she just played me perfectly? The aftermath of a broken family. The door closed with a soft click, and for a moment, everything stood still. My heart was racing, my chest tight with a mixture of triumph and dread. Laura was gone. The chaos had finally stopped, but the damage was done. I stood there in the center of the room, surrounded by my family, the silence thick enough to choke on. The air felt heavy with unspoken words, with tension that was too real to ignore. Jenna was the first to speak, but it wasn't the relief I expected. It wasn't a "thank you, Mom," or even a "I'm glad that's over." Instead, she just looked at me, her eyes wide and glassy. "Mom, why did you say that? It's not like you to just kick someone out like that." I felt my stomach drop. Her words hit harder than I expected. I had been bracing myself for everything, her anger, her disappointment, her confusion, but not this, not the hurt in her voice. I had done what I thought was right, what I had to do to protect her, to protect our family. But standing there, watching the sadness settle into her face, I couldn't help but question myself. The room felt colder now. My brother stood there, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. I could tell he was trying to process everything, trying to figure out how his wife's departure fit into this mess. He'd always been a peacekeeper, always the one to avoid confrontation. I could already hear the excuses he'd make when he went to Laura later, how I'd overreacted, how she didn't mean any harm, how it was just one of those family misunderstandings. I knew how the script went, but I couldn't go back. I couldn't undo the words I'd said, the look I'd given her, the decision to make her leave. And to be honest, as much as it hurt, a part of me didn't want to, because for the first time in years, I had stood up for myself. I had set a boundary, something I had failed to do countless times before. But Jenna wasn't my only concern. As the minutes ticked by, I felt the weight of my actions settling on me. I had pushed away the one person who always seemed to hold all the strings, Laura. The one person who could turn everything upside down with a smile, a glance, a well-timed word. She had this ability to make me doubt myself at every turn. And now, I had finally called her out, finally told her to leave, and I wasn't sure if I had won or lost. "Are you okay, Mom?" Jenna asked softly, her voice cutting through my thoughts. I nodded, though the truth was far from that simple. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired. It's been a long day." But Jenna wasn't convinced. She could see the strain in my face, the uncertainty that lingered beneath my calm exterior. I don't know what to feel," she admitted. "You've never done something like this before. And I know it's been hard with Laura, but—" She stopped, chewing on her lip. "But I don't want you to feel like you have to protect me from her. You didn't need to do that." Her words stung, not because she was wrong, but because I had been trying so hard to protect her, to shield her from the mess I had created. I had spent so many years allowing Laura to weave her way into our family, letting her take control of every moment, that I had forgotten something important. Jenna wasn't a child anymore. She didn't need me to fight her battles. She needed me to be her mother, to support her, even if that meant stepping back and letting her handle things her way. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice breaking. I didn't know what else to do." She reached out and touched my arm, her expression softening. "I know, Mom. I know." But the truth was, I wasn't sure if I had done the right thing. I didn't know if I had broken something that couldn't be fixed, or if I had finally set the stage for a new beginning. I was left standing in the aftermath, trying to make sense of the chaos, of the family that was no longer whole, trying to figure out if this was a mistake or a new chance at healing. And deep down, I realized that I couldn't undo it. Whatever happened next, I had crossed a line, and now I had to face the consequences. A family rebuilt. The weeks that followed were quiet, but not without effort. Reconciliation wasn't something that happened overnight. It was like trying to piece together a puzzle where the pieces didn't quite fit, where you could see the outline of what was supposed to be, but it still felt incomplete. But each day, it became a little clearer. Laura and I took small steps. The awkward silences became less frequent, replaced by tentative conversations about the things we had avoided for so long. There was still a wall between us, but it was no longer made of bitterness and resentment. It was made of the understanding that we had both hurt each other, and that healing required patience. Jenna noticed the change before anyone else. I could see it in the way she smiled at me, the way she no longer seemed to hold her breath every time she saw Laura walk into the room. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was progress. The tension, though still there, wasn't as suffocating. And then, one evening, out of nowhere, Jenna surprised us. We were sitting together in the living room, the three of us, as the evening stretched into a peaceful lull. Jenna, who had been quiet for most of the evening, spoke up. "Mom, I know it's been hard," she began, her voice soft, but steady. "I know you've been holding a lot inside, but I've been thinking, maybe we could have one more get-together. Just the three of us. No drama. Just family." The idea hung in the air, and I looked over at Laura, who was leaning against the armrest, her face unreadable. But when she caught my gaze, something in her softened. "I think that would be nice," Laura said quietly. "I've missed us. I think we've both been waiting for something to change, but maybe it's just about being here, in the moment. My heart swelled. This wasn't just a casual suggestion. It was an invitation, an acknowledgement that we could move past the hurts of the past and begin to rebuild something better, something real. Over the next few days, we made the plans. It wasn't extravagant. We kept it simple. A homemade dinner, a few games, and time spent laughing, talking, being present. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the weight of my mistakes hanging over me. Instead, I felt the warmth of something that had been missing for too long, genuine connection. The evening was everything we needed. We laughed about old memories, teased each other about the small things, and caught up on life. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when old habits crept in, when the past tried to show its face. But we worked through them, together, one conversation at a time. At one point, Jenna stood up, raising her glass in a simple toast. To family, she said. Not just because we're related, but because we've chosen to be here for each other, through the good, the bad, and everything in between. There was a quiet but heartfelt agreement in the room. We all raised our glasses, and for the first time in ages, it didn't feel forced. It felt real. Later that night, as I sat in the quiet of my living room, the flicker of candlelight dancing softly on the table, I realized how far we'd come. We had all made mistakes. We had all hurt each other in different ways. But now, sitting here together, it felt like we were building something stronger than before, a family that was no longer defined by its conflicts, but by its willingness to try again. Reconciliation wasn't a destination, it was a journey. But as I looked at my daughter and my sister-in-law, laughing together across the room, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. This was just the beginning, and for the first time in ages, I believed that we could move forward together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another thrilling story.